Hi, Analisa 6 here with the December 2022 horoscope for sun sign Sagittarius, as well as the rising sign. Make sure if you're rising Sagittarius rising, you read this too. I'm also Sagittarius rising. Also, I just want to say happy birthday to all of the Sagittarius people for November and December. I hope that it was a good one, and I hope that it's going to be a good one. I'm going to try to be as neutral about this one as possible, considering that it affects me too. I always have a hard time not bringing myself into the readings. Part of that's probably because I'm a Leo. But I think when it comes to the horoscopes that affect me, I feel like I'm always like, oh my gosh, it resonates for me so much. So if you're a Leo Sag dominant person like I am, you'll hear me talking a lot about myself in them, in both Leo and Sagittarius. I'm going to try not to do that though. All right, kicking off. So the last half of November, which has already been Sagittarius season, we've had Mercury and Venus both in Sagittarius, which is a great energy for a Sag dominant person, whether you're moon, rising, sun. It's just Venus is auspicious. Mercury, it's not Mercury's favorite place to be in terms of, it's not a grounded placement for Mercury. It's considered to be an area that Mercury is in detriment, which means it just doesn't function in its best way. But I will say, out of a lot of placements, I do personally, and I think it's because I'm a Sagittarius, I said this earlier, but I think that it's because, you know, I like Sagittarius energy a lot. So Mercury and Sagittarius can be fun for exploring new subject matter or spiritual practices, or traveling, going to another country, going on a road trip somewhere. You know, it's a great energy for that kind of stuff. And so we've already been experiencing a lot of that auspicious Sagittarius energy. And the first week of December will still have a little bit of carryover from that. So that'll be nice. You know, it's been for the Sag rising person, it's been hitting the first house, which has to do with the identity. So it's a really good time to connect with yourself and how you relate to yourself. It's a great self-love placement. Anytime Venus is transiting the first house, it's such a great time to just focus on things that make you feel at home in yourself and to kind of embrace any kind of self-love practice. So Venus is going to be kind of finishing up that little oomph there. For us around the first week of December. And so that first week, we also have on the 7th or the 8th, depending on where you're located in the world, we have a full moon in Gemini. And so Gemini is the polar opposite of Sagittarius. And so anytime signs oppose each other, just the way we hear like opposites attract, it's the same thing. Like they mirror similar things back to each other in opposite ways. And there's tension there because it's an opposition. But when we integrate the two, it's really good. It helps, right? So that's the journey of the birth chart. Like if you look at the chart, it's a pie, it's 12 slices, every sign has an opposition, and it's all about integration. Our entire life is about integrating polarities and trying to find balance, right? So that's, you know, a big theme. Like the full moon is always the sun and moon in opposition to each other. So every Sagittarius season, we have a full moon in Gemini. But when they happen and how they happen is different every year. And so what makes this one unique is that this full moon is making a conjunction to Mars in Gemini retrograde. And it's hard for a Sagittarius dominant person to experience that opposition sometimes because it's an unfamiliar energy, or it's an uncomfortable energy, unless we also have a lot in Gemini, right? So where this is hitting for the Sag dominant person is the house that is the opposite of the self. So when we're talking about, oh, it's such a nice time for self-love, or, you know, being introverted, where the full moon hits is where it has to do with the other. It has to do with our partners when it comes to our relationships, like romantic relationships, has to do with our partners when it comes to business partnerships, and also has to do with best friends. And one of the things I think I vaguely remember about the horoscope for the Sag Sun, Sag Rising individual for last month was it's really important that you don't forget about the people in your life that are showing up for you while you're doing this introspective self-love time. That can be hard. I think that depending on how you're wired, everybody's wired differently, right? Even if you're a Sag person, but let's say that you're a Sag person where you're wired to be more self-oriented. You're already actively having to work on pulling yourself out and remembering other people. If you're a Sag person that's already wired to think about other people and to be more empathic and giving or extroverted, this might not resonate with you. You might already be somebody that's balancing that out. Or maybe you give too much of yourself, and this introspective cutting yourself off from others is really important. That's an individual thing. In terms of a general horoscope, the chart is really needing you to remember that while it's important to fill your own cup, it's also important that you don't neglect the people that are showing up for you. And so the full moon in Gemini that's hitting in that relationship house, the full moons are all about releasing, letting go, and sometimes manifesting, right? So in the relationship house, with that Mars conjunction, Mars is really intense, and it can sometimes create problems. We can sometimes have maybe some kind of conflict with somebody that we're in a close relationship with. That conflict might be a catalyst for something that we've been feeling we need to move away from or shift our energy dynamic in some way. And, you know, Gemini rules communication. So obviously there's going to be probably some combative communication with it, which is something we need to be mindful of. So if you feel like there's been relationship dynamics that you've either been neglecting to communicate with your partner about, this full moon, at the beginning of December, you might be in a position where you're ready to talk about it, but it might come to fruition in not such a nice way. I'm giving you the heads up right now, though it doesn't have to go that way if you sit and think about it. You might also experience some people coming to you that are having issues with you. They might feel like you've been distant or cut off, or maybe you haven't been communicating in a way that is making them feel very good. And you might be in a position where you want to validate that and listen to it and meet it and apologize or talk about it or say, this is what I've been needing. I've just been needing alone time. Or you might feel defensive, or you might disagree completely. You might feel like these are people that you need to make boundaries with, or that you need to cut out of your life altogether. And full moons can feel that intense. We can have these kind of epiphanies where we're feeling, you know, conflicted about whether or not this is an energy frequency that we want to continue on moving forward. And so it's not necessarily a full make or break. It doesn't necessarily have the energy that you're going to end a relationship, but you might definitely have to have some difficult talks about how you move forward around these things. And it might feel like this is a breaking point communication wise, and it needs to be acknowledged. So that's a big theme for you at the beginning of December when that full moon happens in Gemini. Hopefully some good things come out of it, though. So focusing on Mercury and Venus moving into Capricorn by the second week of December, the area that this is hitting in the chart has to do more with our finances. So this is where I have a hard time not projecting myself into it, but this is a really good time where we need to reflect on our self-worth and how we value ourselves and building confidence around that, but also putting order to things when it comes to our money and our resources and our sense of stability. So this is a really good time to start a savings plan, or if you're thinking about starting any kind of new investment accounts, that type of stuff, it's really good to kind of get a system in place or a plan around that. I'm laughing about that because it's just so in line. It's in such harmony with the things that are going on in my life when it comes to money. So it's just funny to me. And if you're married, you might find that some of those conversations that you guys are talking about that this full moon is, you know, related to, has to do with resources and money and that type of stuff because of where Mercury and Venus are going to be at in the second house. I personally love Venus in the second house, and I don't know anyone that wouldn't, because it's an auspicious planet. It rules the second house, and it brings good fortune and abundance into the finances and our self-worth and our sense of stability. So for Sag rising people, that's a transit For the sun sign, that's more of a general horoscope, but those will be themes, right? And so it should be a good time financially, and it should be a good time for you to really focus on building stability and structure around your finances. By the end of the month, we'll have our new moon in Capricorn. And again, this is a great time to set intentions around self-worth, money, security, and your relationship to how you manage and kind of keep that stuff in order when it comes to your material reality and your finances. We have Mercury going retrograde in Capricorn at the end of the month through January. So if you are making any financial plans or moves, this is not during the Mercury retrograde time, which starts, I mean, if you count the shadow, which I normally do because I'm super sensitive, the shadow starts mid-December. So again, it might not be the best time to sign anything, which I'll be honest, I'm already in the, I mean, it's already been signed. I'm already in the process of my financial stuff that I'm doing. But if you're not and you're waiting, this last part of December, the last half and the first half of January, don't sign anything. Don't sign any contracts. Wait until the end of January. Wait till the very last few days of January or February, because that's going to be a more auspicious time for that. In a very generic sense, I'm not talking about all the little other transits that are happening. I'm just mostly focusing on the fact that Mars and Mercury and Uranus will not be retrograde anymore. So I'm just, you know, as an astrologer, I have to do my due diligence in saying that it's better to wait until the end of January, February to really solidify anything. But this is such a great time to get all of those things in order, especially money. I know for me, I really want to start getting some investment and, you know, retirement kind of setups going with my finances for my husband and I. And I just think it's really in alignment to see this happening for the Sag rising, Sag sun individual, and that it's good to be thinking about these things for sure. But again, better to kind of really get the ball rolling at the end of January. I apologize for my dogs. Every video there's going to be barking dogs because it's just the reality of my life. Brucey, we have a person walking up along our back fence right now. It was very much driving them crazy. I'm going to pause this and come back. Life with dogs. All right. I don't have much else to say for you, Sagittarius rising sun individual. I think that's a good synopsis of December. And I wish you all happy birthday, happy holidays, and good luck.